I never thought I'd find myself in the middle of a bad Lifetime movie, but here we are. My name's Jake, and I've been married to Emily for 5 years. We started off strong like most couples do, but over time things started to change. It was subtle at first, a few late nights at work, her being more glued to her phone, and an increasing number of girls' nights that felt more like excuses than anything else. I shrugged it off initially. Life gets busy, right? But deep down I could feel a shift. Emily was a dedicated woman. She was passionate about her job as a police officer and even got involved in de-escalation training programs. She often spoke highly of her director, a guy named Mark. I never thought much of it. Coworkers are just that, right? But there was something about the way she mentioned him that made my gut churn. She'd laugh a little too hard at his jokes or casually drop his name in conversation at odd times. I could feel myself growing more suspicious, but I wanted to trust her. I wanted to believe in us. Things took a turn for the worse one fateful Friday night. Emily had told me she was going to a training seminar with Mark, and I was fine with it. It was work after all. But that night I received a text from a friend, Tom, who mentioned seeing Emily at a bar downtown without her work clothes. He thought it was odd and decided to text me. I brushed it off, convinced they were just having a casual drink after the seminar. But something didn't sit right. The next day I found myself aimlessly scrolling through social media. I stumbled upon a post from one of her girlfriends who had tagged Emily in some pictures from the night out. The images showed Emily looking far too cozy with Mark, leaning into him, laughing, and even some flirty poses. My heart sank. I felt sick to my stomach, and everything from the past few months suddenly fell into place. I couldn't just sit back and let this fester. I had to confront her. When Emily came home later that evening, I tried to act normal, but my heart raced as I prepared for what was inevitable. As soon as she walked in, I could tell she was in a good mood, completely unaware that I had uncovered her betrayal. I started with casual questions about her night, but as she spoke, her stories felt rehearsed. I could see the guilt hidden behind her smile. "Hey, you looked like you had fun last night," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yeah, just some training stuff, you know. Mark's great at teaching," she replied, her voice light, but I noticed a slight tremor in her hands. "Did you have fun training?" I pressed, deliberately emphasizing the word. She narrowed her eyes, her smile faltering for a moment. "It was just a seminar, Jake. Nothing to worry about." That's when the floodgates opened. I couldn't hold back the emotions that had been building up inside me. Anger, betrayal, sadness, and confusion swirled into a storm of rage. "I saw the pictures, Em. You were at a bar with Mark looking cozy. What the hell is going on?" Her expression shifted instantly to one of alarm. "Jake, it wasn't what it looked like. I swear." She stammered, her voice rising defensively. "What was it then?" I shot back, feeling my voice crack with emotion. "Because it sure looked like you were having a good time with him." She started to fumble for excuses, her words tumbling over each other in a desperate attempt to cover her tracks. "We were just celebrating. It was a team thing. You know how hard we work, Jake. You can't expect me to just come home and sulk, right?" The sheer indignation in her voice made me want to scream. How could she twist this around? The anger boiled over as I demanded the truth. I wasn't interested in her excuses anymore. I wanted to know if she had crossed a line, and deep down I already felt the answer. Emily's face fell, and for a brief moment I saw the mask slip. "Okay, maybe there was a little more to it than just a celebration," she admitted, but she quickly added, "But it didn't mean anything. I love you, Jake." Her words felt like daggers. I had trusted her, and now it felt like she had shattered everything we had built together. The pain cut deep. This was only the beginning of a long and twisted saga. The emotional toll was just as overwhelming as the betrayal itself, and I was left with questions that ran deeper than the surface. What do you do when the person whom you trusted with your whole heart betrays you? I needed to figure out my next steps, and fast. As I looked at her standing there, the woman I thought I knew, I realized something had to change. The safety of our relationship was no longer secure, but I wasn't going to let this go unanswered. I could either wallow in despair or I could fight back with the fire of accountability, and I chose the latter. After that explosive confrontation, I was left feeling like a shipwrecked survivor washed up on the shore of despair. Emily's half-baked excuses echoed in my mind, and the sting of her betrayal felt fresh. I spent the night tossing and turning, trying to make sense of everything. All I could think about was the image of her laughing with Mark, her body leaning into his as if she belonged to him rather than me. The next day, I woke up feeling a mix of anger and sadness simmering just below the surface. I knew I had to confront this head-on. I thought about what it meant to have a partner who didn't uphold the values of loyalty and trust, the very things I believed made a relationship strong. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss of uncertainty. I decided I needed to gather evidence to fully understand the extent of her deceit before making any rash decisions. I knew it wasn't about being vindictive. It was about knowing the truth so I could decide what to do next. As I replayed the events of the past few months in my head, I remembered the little things, the late-night texts, the unexplained absences, and the way she seemed to be guarded about her phone. So I took the plunge. I waited for Emily to leave for work and I dug into her things. I felt like a criminal, but I needed answers, no matter how uncomfortable it felt. I rifled through her purse, hoping to find something that would confirm my worst fears. Then I came across her phone, sitting innocently on the kitchen counter. I hesitated for a moment but then took a deep breath and unlocked it. What I found made my heart race. I scrolled through the messages, and there it was, flirty banter between Emily and Mark, complete with emojis and inside jokes that were clearly not meant for a platonic relationship. My stomach twisted in knots as I read words like "miss you" and "can't wait to see you again." It was like a punch to the gut, and I felt the air leave my lungs as I realized how deep this betrayal ran. I needed to think through my next steps carefully. Just a few weeks ago, I had been blissfully unaware, and now I felt like a different person entirely. I was filled with a sense of determination. If Emily could betray me like this, then I would take matters into my own hands and ensure that she understood the gravity of her actions. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about accountability. I spent the next few days planning my response. I didn't want to act out of pure emotion. I wanted to strike a balance between delivering a lesson and protecting my own heart. I reached out to my friend Tom, who had first tipped me off about Emily's night out. I knew he'd be supportive, but I also needed someone to help keep me grounded. "I think Emily's been cheating," I told him flatly. He listened intently as I laid out the details I'd uncovered. "Man, that's rough. What are you going to do?" he asked, concern etched on his face. "I'm not sure yet, but I'm definitely not letting this slide. She needs to know that actions have consequences. I'm going to make her face what she's done," I replied fiercely. Tom nodded in agreement. "Just make sure you protect yourself in the process. It's easy to get caught up in the moment and do something you'll regret later." That advice resonated with me, and I took it to heart. I started devising a plan that would expose Emily's infidelity and hold her accountable, all while making sure I didn't lose myself in anger or revenge. A few days later, everything came to a head. Emily was at work, and I took the opportunity to set my plan in motion. I called Mark, the training director. It was time to confront him directly. He picked up on the third ring, and I could hear the surprise in his voice when I introduced myself. "Hi, Mark. This is Jake, Emily's husband. We need to talk." There was a brief silence, and I could feel the tension radiating through the phone. Okay, what's this about?" "I think you know why I'm calling. I've seen the messages between you two," I said, my voice steady. "What do you mean?" He stammered, clearly caught off guard. "You know exactly what I mean. I'd appreciate it if you'd be honest with me," I replied, not giving him an inch. "I didn't mean for it to go that far," Mark finally admitted. "It was just supposed to be a training thing, but we hit it off. I didn't know she was married." His words made my blood boil. How dare he act like he was innocent in this? "You didn't know she was married? You're a grown man, Mark. You should have known better. You're supposed to be a professional." "I never wanted to hurt anyone, I swear," he claimed, but it fell flat. "Whatever your intentions were, the damage is done. You're both responsible," I shot back, feeling the weight of it all. "I just want you to know that I'm not going to let this slide. Emily will have to face the consequences of cheating, and you'll be part of that." I could feel my heartbeat quicken as I spoke. I was fully committed to this new path. After hanging up, I felt a strange mixture of empowerment and dread. I had taken the first big step towards reclaiming control over a situation that had spiraled out of my hands. I knew it wouldn't be easy to confront Emily again, but I was ready. I wanted her to understand that betrayal didn't come without consequences, especially when it was me on the receiving end of her lies. That night, I prepared myself for another confrontation. I was resolved to lay everything bare, to make her see the truth of her actions and to push her to take responsibility. I had no idea what the fallout would be, but I knew deep down that this was a path I had to walk. I wasn't just fighting for my marriage, I was fighting for my sense of self. The atmosphere in our house felt suffocating as I waited for Emily to come home that evening. I could sense the tension in my chest, a relentless knot tightening with every passing minute. I had prepared myself for this moment, but nothing could truly prepare me for the reality of confronting her again. When the front door finally creaked open, Emily walked in, a smile plastered on her face as if everything was normal. I could see her slip into her routine, but the moment she caught sight of my serious expression, her smile faltered. I was standing there, arms crossed, and she instantly knew something was off. "Jake, what's wrong?" she asked, feigning innocence, but I could hear the underlying tension in her voice. "Sit down, Emily. We need to talk," I said, my voice calm but firm. Her brow furrowed and she complied, sitting across from me at the kitchen table. "You're scaring me. What is this about?" I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of courage I had. I spoke to Mark. Her eyes widened and I could see the panic set in. "You what?" she asked, her voice rising an octave. "I spoke to him about the messages, about the affair," I stated bluntly, watching as her expression shifted from shock to defensive. "You need to be honest with me, Emily." "What did he say?" she asked, her fingers fidgeting nervously with the hem of her shirt. I leaned in closer, my voice low and steady. "He admitted to it, Emily. He admitted that you two got close, and I need to know how long this has been going on. How long have you been lying to me?" "Jake, it's not what you think. It was just a couple of texts, nothing serious. We were just trying to get through the training together." She pleaded, her tone desperate. "Don't play games with me. I've seen the messages. I know it wasn't just training. You were flirting with him. You made a choice. You decided to betray me," I said, feeling the heat of anger rising within me. "Okay, yes, maybe we got a little too close," she admitted, her voice wavering. "But it didn't mean anything. I love you. You have to believe me." "Love?" I echoed, incredulous. "Is that what you call this? Because love doesn't involve sneaking around and lying. Love is supposed to be built on trust. And you shattered that. Do you even understand the hurt you've caused?" Emily's eyes brimmed with tears, and I felt a mix of anger and pity. "I didn't want to hurt you, Jake. I was just feeling overwhelmed with everything, my job, the training, and I guess I turned to Mark because he understood me." "That's not an excuse," I shot back, my voice rising. "You don't just get to deflect the blame onto me because you couldn't handle your feelings. You made a choice to cross a line." "Please just listen," she cried, her voice cracking. I wasn't thinking straight. I felt like I was drowning, and he gave me attention when I needed it. I didn't mean for it to happen. I sat back, letting her words wash over me. I was angry, but I also felt a wave of sadness. This wasn't just about her affair. It was about our relationship, our life together. "Emily, this isn't just about one mistake. This is about the fact that you sought comfort in someone else instead of coming to me. You chose him. I can't just overlook that." The silence that followed was heavy and charged. I could see her processing everything I said, the reality of her actions crashing down on her like a wave. "What do you want from me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I want accountability. I want you to understand what you've done and the pain it caused. But more than that, I need to know if you truly want to fix this together," I replied, my tone softening slightly. "Are you willing to work on our marriage, or are you going to keep hiding behind excuses?" Her expression shifted, and I could see the gears turning in her mind. "I want us to work, Jake. I really do," she said, her voice trembling. "I messed up, and I'll do anything to make it right." I studied her face closely. Part of me wanted to believe her, but the other part was screaming to protect my heart from further devastation. "What does that even mean? What steps are you willing to take?" "I'll go to counseling. I'll be open and honest about everything. I'll stop all communication with Mark," she promised, her voice gaining strength. I'll do whatever it takes. Counseling is only part of it, Emily, I warned, feeling the weight of the situation. You need to be transparent and earn back my trust. It's not just about saying the right things, it's about showing me through your actions. I know, she replied, eyes pleading. I'll show you I can change. I can prove to you that I want our marriage to be stronger than ever. As I listened to her, I felt the walls I had built around myself start to crack. Part of me wanted to lash out, to tell her how deeply she had hurt me, but another part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, we could salvage what we had. I decided to give her a chance. If we're going to do this, we need to set some boundaries. I want you to be completely transparent with me. That means sharing your phone, your plans, and being honest about your feelings. No more secrets. Okay, I can do that, she replied earnestly, her voice filled with determination. And if you slip up again, if I catch you in another lie, I'm done. I won't put myself through this kind of pain again, I added, my eyes locking onto hers. You need to understand the stakes here. I promise, Jake. I'll do everything I can to make this right, she said, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. As we sat across from each other, the air heavy with unresolved tension, I felt a strange mix of hope and skepticism. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to give it a shot. I wanted to believe in the possibility of rebuilding our relationship, but I also knew that it would take time, patience, and a lot of hard work. I realized that this was just the beginning. The journey to healing and rebuilding trust would be long and arduous, but I was ready to confront the challenge head-on. I had learned that a relationship requires constant effort from both partners, and I was determined to fight for what we once had. But this time, it would be on my terms, with safety established through complete accountability. The days following that confrontation felt surreal. It was like we were living in a weird limbo, where Emily was trying desperately to prove her commitment while I was constantly on edge, waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had agreed to give her a chance, but I was acutely aware that trust, once shattered, is not easily rebuilt. Emily dove into her promises with fervor. She started attending counseling sessions, which, on the surface, seemed promising. She would come home after each session, bubbling with newfound insights about herself and our relationship. I watched her try to implement changes, but I was stuck in my own head, unable to fully engage with her enthusiasm. It felt like I was standing on a cliff, both wanting to leap towards reconciliation and fearful of falling into the depths of betrayal again. I kept my promise to myself. I was going to hold her accountable. I began to monitor her behavior closely. I asked to see her phone whenever I felt uneasy, and she complied. Yet every time I glanced at the screen, I felt a pang in my chest, a reminder of how easily trust had been broken. One evening, we were sitting on the couch together, watching a movie. Emily seemed genuinely happy, and for a moment I allowed myself to relax. But then I noticed her phone buzzing with a notification. It was a message from Mark. I felt my heart drop and all the old feelings of anger and betrayal rushed back. Emily, your phone just buzzed. Who is it? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It's just a group chat, she replied, a hint of nervousness creeping into her tone. My instincts kicked in. Show me, I demanded, and she hesitated for a split second before handing it over. I opened the screen and my heart sank. Wasn't just a group chat. It was a private message from Mark asking how she was doing and if they could grab coffee to talk about the training. What the hell is this? I exclaimed, my voice rising with anger. Jake, please, it's nothing, I swear. I didn't respond. She pleaded, her eyes wide with panic. It's not nothing, Emily. You're still in contact with him. I snapped, feeling the familiar storm of emotions swirl inside me. I thought it would be easier to keep things civil since we worked together. She insisted, her voice rising in desperation. I didn't want to create more drama. More drama? You're the one who created this mess in the first place. What part of no contact don't you understand? I shouted, frustration pouring out of me. I'm trying, I really am, she cried, tears streaming down her cheeks. Trying isn't good enough. You're proving to me that you're not taking this seriously. I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. How could she still not see the damage she was causing? After a long and heated argument, I was left feeling more confused than ever. Emily was trying, but she hadn't fully grasped the gravity of her actions. I realized she needed a wake-up call, a way to understand the consequences of her choices. The next day, I decided to take a different route. Instead of spiraling into a cycle of accusations, I called Tom again. I needed to talk things through with someone who understood what I was going through. I think I need to expose her actions in a way that hits home. I told him over coffee. She needs to understand what's at stake. Are you talking about confronting Mark again? Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. Not just Mark. I'm thinking about reaching out to her friends and letting them know what's going on. Maybe if they see how her actions affect not just us but also her reputation, it'll make her realize the seriousness of what she's done. That's risky, man, Tom warned. You don't want to create unnecessary drama, especially if you're trying to work things out. I know, but if I don't do something drastic, I feel like she'll never get it. She'll never understand the devastation of her betrayal. I replied, my resolve hardening. After much deliberation, I made a plan. I would gather a few of Emily's closest friends for a get-together under the guise of wanting to reconnect. It would be the perfect opportunity to discuss what had happened in a way that would allow them to see just how serious the situation was. I reached out to her friends, inviting them over for dinner that Saturday night. I stuck to casual language, not revealing my true intentions. I was nervous but determined. The thought of sharing what was happening with them felt like the only way to hold Emily accountable and force her to confront her choices. When the evening arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Emily had no idea what I was planning, and I could sense her excitement as she prepared for the get-together. She set the table, cooked dinner, and laughed with her friends as they arrived. I played the role of the supportive husband, smiling and engaging, while internally bracing myself for the truth that I was about to reveal. As we sat down for dinner, I felt a mix of apprehension and adrenaline coursing through me. My heart raced as I waited for the right moment to drop the bomb. Emily was animated, sharing funny stories from work, completely oblivious to the storm brewing beneath the surface. Finally, I couldn't hold back any longer. I cleared my throat and all eyes turned towards me. Thank you all for coming tonight. I wanted to take a moment to talk about something important that's been happening in our lives. Emily's expression shifted, confusion washing over her face. Jake, what are you doing? I think it's essential that everyone here knows about the situation between Emily and Mark. I've discovered that she's been having an affair with him, I announced. My voice steady but filled with raw emotion. The room fell silent and I could feel the shockwaves ripple through the group. Emily's face blanched and she looked like she had been slapped. Her friends exchanged glances, disbelief etched on their faces. What, Jake, you can't just say that. Emily protested, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. It's time for everyone, including you, to face what this means, I replied, my heart pounding. I went on to explain what I had uncovered, the messages, the late nights, the lies. I laid it all out in front of her friends, hoping they would help Emily see the consequences of her actions from a different perspective. It wasn't just about our marriage, it was about the kind of person she wanted to be. Her friends looked from her to me, the weight of the situation settling in. Eventually, one of them spoke up. Emily, is this true? Did you really cheat on Jake? Emily looked down, tears streaming down her cheeks. I messed up. I didn't mean for it to happen. As she started to explain herself, her friends didn't let her off the hook. They asked questions, pressed her for details, and held her accountable in a way that I couldn't. It was a reality check that I hoped would finally make her understand the depth of her betrayal. By the end of the evening, Emily sat in silence, utterly shattered. The support from her friends was there, but they didn't sugarcoat anything. They made it clear that she had to own her choices and confront the damage they had caused. As they left, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with anxiety. I had taken a risk, but I hoped it was necessary to push Emily towards genuine remorse and accountability. I wanted her to understand that this wasn't just about us. It was about the kind of person she wanted to be moving forward. That night, as we sat together in the aftermath, I knew we were at a critical turning point. Emily was visibly shaken, and I could see the realization dawning on her face. Whether this would lead to real change or simply more pain, I had yet to find out. but I was ready to face whatever came next, determined to rebuild what had been broken. After that intense evening with Emily's friends, things shifted. I could see that the reality of her actions was finally sinking in. She spent the next few days in a state of reflection, often lost in thought or visibly shaken by the confrontation. I could tell that the support from her friends had hit home. The conversations we had after they left revealed a woman grappling with the consequences of her choices. "Jake, I can't believe I let it get this far," she admitted one night, her voice small, almost fragile. We were sitting on the couch, a blanket draped over both of us, but the warmth felt distant. I thought I could manage everything, my job and my feelings, but I was wrong. I nodded, feeling a mixture of hope and skepticism. "This isn't just about acknowledging what you did, Emily. It's about showing me you understand why it was wrong. It's about taking real steps to change." "I know," she replied earnestly. "I've realized that I was looking for validation in all the wrong places. I let myself get caught up in the attention Mark gave me instead of being honest with you. I should have come to you instead." We talked for hours that night, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were communicating on a deeper level. She was finally peeling back the layers of her guilt and shame, and it felt like a watershed moment. But even as I saw her striving for change, a nagging voice in my head reminded me that actions speak louder than words. The following week, Emily began attending counseling sessions regularly, both alone and with me. I decided to join her for the couple's therapy sessions as a way to process our issues together. The therapist, Michelle, guided us through our feelings, which often felt like walking through a minefield. Each session left me emotionally drained but also hopeful that we could get through this with professional help. One of the key moments in therapy was when Michelle asked Emily to write a letter to me expressing her feelings about what had happened. I watched as Emily poured her heart out in that letter, detailing her regrets and self-recrimination. It was raw and honest, and for the first time I saw her vulnerability laid bare. "Jake, I'm so sorry for what I did. I can't take back the betrayal, but I want you to know that I regret every moment I spent with Mark," she wrote. "I was searching for something that I thought I was missing in our relationship, but I realize now that I was just trying to escape my own fears. You deserve so much better than what I gave you, and I'm committed to making things right." Reading those words was cathartic, yet it also came with a heavy weight. I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes as I processed her heartfelt apology. I wanted to believe her, but doubt still lingered in the corners of my mind. How could I trust her again? What if this was just a temporary change, a phase she would eventually outgrow? As we continued to navigate the rocky waters of rebuilding, I started to notice changes in her behavior. She was more transparent about her life. She would share details about her day, and she kept her phone unlocked and close, a stark contrast to how secretive she had been before. I appreciated these gestures, but I still found it difficult to shake the remnants of betrayal. Then came the day that turned everything upside down again. I had just come home from work when I noticed Emily sitting at the kitchen table, visibly distressed. She was scrolling through her phone and her face was pale. Immediately my heart sank as I approached her. "What's wrong?" It's Mark," she said, her voice trembling. "He texted me again." "Why is he still contacting you?" I snapped, the anger rising within me once again. "You said you cut ties." "I know." I didn't respond, I swear, but I feel like he's trying to pull me back in, she said, her eyes wide with fear. "He texts me things like he misses our conversations and that he wants to check in on me. I never wanted to hear from him again, but he keeps reaching out." I could feel my blood boil. "This is unacceptable. We agreed there would be no contact." "I'm not responding, I promise, but he keeps trying," she insisted, her voice rising in desperation. "I don't know how to make him stop." In that moment, I realized that no matter how much progress we made, the shadow of Mark still loomed over our relationship. I felt a mix of anger and sadness as I processed the situation. "You need to block him, Emily. No more half measures. This needs to be final." "I will, I promise. I interrupted her, my voice firm. "No more excuses. This is about your commitment to us. You have to take it seriously." She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I'll block him right now. I'll make sure this is over once and for all." As she started to type, I felt a sense of urgency wash over me. I needed to take more control of this situation. I decided I would reach out to Mark myself. I wasn't going to let him be a lingering presence in our lives any longer. That night, after Emily went to bed, I sat down at my computer and sent Mark a message. I was direct but measured in my words. "Mark, this is Jake, Emily's husband. I'm reaching out because I want to make it very clear that your involvement with my wife needs to end. She is committed to our marriage and has expressed her desire to work things out. I expect you to respect that and cease all communication with her. This is not negotiable." I hit send, feeling a rush of adrenaline. I was no longer the passive victim of this situation. I was taking charge of our narrative, and it felt empowering. The next day, I woke up to a response from Mark. He had replied almost immediately, and I braced myself for whatever was to come. His message was short and to the point. "Understood. I'll respect your wishes." I didn't know she was still married. I never intended to hurt anyone. I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It wasn't a perfect solution, but at least I had taken a stand. I shared the exchange with Emily, and she seemed genuinely appreciative. "Thank you for doing that," she said, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "You're right. I need to be done with this chapter of my life for good." As we moved forward, I focused on fostering healing and rebuilding. We continued therapy sessions, and slowly but surely, there were moments of joy and laughter that began to return. It was a fragile process, and I remained cautious, but I could see glimmers of hope. Yet I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still walking a tightrope. There was a long way to go before I could fully trust again, but I was starting to believe in the possibility of a new beginning. I realized that while the journey was challenging, it was also an opportunity for growth, for both of us. In the back of my mind, I knew that true healing would require more than just time. It would require consistent effort, vulnerability, and a commitment to accountability. I was ready to fight for our marriage, but I wouldn't do it blindly. I needed to ensure that both Emily and I were on the same page, determined to forge a new path together. As the weeks turned into months, the process of healing from Emily's betrayal continued, and I could feel a palpable shift in our relationship. We were both working hard to put the pieces back together, but it was slow, and every step forward felt like walking on fragile glass. Each session in therapy peeled back layers of hurt, and we had to confront not only her actions but my responses to them as well. Emily was visibly more committed. She was keeping her promises, blocking Mark's number, and being openly communicative about her feelings. I watched as she began to take ownership of her choices, and I could see genuine remorse in her eyes. She was finally understanding the weight of what she had done and was doing everything in her power to make amends. There were still moments of doubt that crept in, usually triggered by something small. A phone buzzing in the middle of dinner or an unexpected late-night work meeting would send my heart racing. I found myself constantly evaluating her actions, wondering if she was still hiding something from me. It wasn't easy to shake off the lingering shadows of trust that had been broken. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, Emily turned to me, a serious expression on her face. "Jake, I want to talk about something," she said, her voice soft. "Sure, what's on your mind?" I replied, feeling a mix of apprehension and curiosity. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened and how it affected us. I want to be better, not just for you, but for me too. I want to understand why I let myself fall into that situation," she said, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "You've made a lot of progress," I said, trying to encourage her, "but it's going to take time to rebuild. It's not just about saying you want to change, it's about following through on those intentions." "I know," she replied, her voice trembling slightly. "I want to take responsibility, and I think it would help me to have more openness between us. I want to share more about my feelings and insecurities so I don't end up seeking validation from someone else again." "I'm here for that," I said, feeling a flicker of hope. "But you need to know that I'll still have moments where I struggle. It's part of the process." "I understand," she acknowledged, wiping a stray tear from her cheek. "But I want you to know that I'm committed to us. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust back." In that moment, I felt a surge of warmth. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, and I knew that she meant every word. It felt like we were finally on the same team again, fighting for our relationship rather than against each other. As we transitioned into this new phase of our relationship, we decided to take the opportunity to reconnect on a deeper level. We planned date nights where we could talk and laugh without the weight of the past looming over us. We explored new hobbies together and found joy in the simple things, a long walk through the park or cooking dinner side by side. During one of those date nights, as we sat across from each other at a small Italian restaurant, I could see the light returning to her eyes. I never realized how much I took our relationship for granted until I almost lost it, Emily confessed. I'm grateful for this second chance. I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. We're both learning, and this is a journey for both of us. We have to keep working at it. There were still bumps in the road. There were moments of tension when either of us would become overwhelmed by past memories, but we were learning how to navigate them together. I often reminded myself that healing isn't linear. It's a winding path that can take unexpected turns. As months passed, I began to see a real change in Emily. She had become more emotionally aware and communicative. Her dedication to therapy and her willingness to confront her past mistakes had brought us closer in ways I hadn't anticipated. One day, as we were driving home from dinner, I turned to her and said, "I think I'm starting to feel like I can trust you again." Her eyes lit up with hope. "Really?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, it's not fully there yet, but I can feel the walls starting to come down. I see how hard you've been working," I replied, my heart swelling with cautious optimism. Emily reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly. "Thank you for giving me this chance. I promise I won't take it for granted again." As we pulled into our driveway, I glanced at her and smiled. I could see the future stretching out before us, filled with potential. There would always be a scar from the betrayal, but it was beginning to heal. I felt a sense of strength and resilience in our relationship that had been missing for a long time. Reflecting on this tumultuous journey, I realized that love isn't just about the good times or the laughter. It's also about navigating the hard moments together. It's about choosing to face the challenges head-on and supporting each other through the aftermath of betrayal. What I learned from this experience is that healing takes time and effort from both partners. Accountability is crucial, not just for the one who betrayed trust, but for the one who was betrayed as well. Maintaining a relationship requires constant communication, vulnerability, and the willingness to forgive, both the other person and yourself. As I gazed at Emily, I felt a renewed sense of hope. We had come a long way from the darkness of betrayal, and while we still had a journey ahead, I was finally starting to believe in the possibility of a brighter future together. We were ready to face whatever life threw at us, armed with the lessons we had learned and the love we were committed to nurturing.